So we have tackled previously initial theories, no, involving environmental planning, but another mainstream practice, no, that I observed in the practice of profession is what we call adaptive management. So this is the practical this is a practical methodology, that emerges from what we discussed earlier on resilience thinking. So this is often described as learning by doing. Now, unlike yung traditional plan and implement model, the adaptive management treats policies and management actions as what you call deliberate experiments. Now, you implement a strategy with a clear hypothesis about what will happen, and you establish rigorous monitoring systems to track the outcomes. Based on the results, you then adjust your approach. So this what we call iterative, no, cycle of planning, acting, monitoring, and adapting embraces uncertainty, no, rather than ignoring it. So this practice acknowledges that we cannot know everything in advance, no, and that management must be flexible, ongoing process of learning. So this approach is essential for managing complex systems like forests. No, some of you are in the practice of forestry, fisheries, and water resources, especially in the face of climate change. So another theory, no, being practiced by some or many of the environmental planners is this what we call social ecological systems. No, this is a core integrative concept in resilience thinking. So a social ecological system is a coupled integrated system in which humans are part of nature, not separate from it. Isang kwanto, no, particular school of thought kasi yung tingin ng iba yung mga animals, no, other part of yung nature, parang they're secondary, no, or even inferior. Dito naman sa system na to, part lang tayo, no, part ng nature. So meaning the well-being of human societies is inextricably linked to the health of the ecological systems they are embedded within. You cannot manage a fishery without understanding the fishing community's economics and culture. And you cannot manage a city without understanding its watershed and airshed. The SES framework forces planners to break down the artificial disciplinary silos between the social and the ecological. So it requires us to manage the critical linkages and feedbacks between them. For example, how urban water consumption affects river health, which in turn affects the quality of life and economic opportunities in the city, no, for instance. Then this one, no, I saw this, no, being asked in the board exam, the term pan-anarchy, no, interconnected scales. So this was developed by C.S. Holling. No, yun yung name palagi lumalabas sa board exam for the person responsible, no, with this concept together with his colleagues in the early 200s, no. This framework, they call panarchy framework, describes how complex adaptive systems are nested within one another across scales. For example, sa Russia, Russia, no, yung isang area, isang country, there's a forest, no, for example, with the regional landscape, Then pagkatapos yung regional landscape na yan is part of yung continental climate system and so on. So this type of yung framework considers yung tinatawag nilang interconnected levels, no? Interacting with each other in a cycle of growth, conservation, collapse, and renewal. So crucially, a collapse or a revolution at a large scale, no, like for example, a global financial crisis or a major climate shift can cascade down to disrupt smaller systems. Conversely, no, pwede rin galing sa baba, small local innovation can sometimes revolt and transform a larger system. So this explains why planning must be multi-scalar. No? A local climate action plan, for instance, is both influenced by and can influence national and global climate policies. So sa actual practice, no, just summary of these theories, no, there are other theories not covered here. If you're an environmental planner, you are seeing, no, a particular area or a particular scenario or particular situation in diverse lenses. Now, in summary, no single theoretical lens is sufficient to capture the complexity of environmental planning. So ngayon pa lang early, no, ma-realize na natin yan. These are just tools, mga theories na gagamitin natin once we are engaged, no, as professionals in the practice of environmental planning. So yung mga theories na na-mention natin, no, just briefly, they provide a unique and valuable perspective. So for example, yung utilitarian conservation na discuss natin, no, it asks that the essential question of efficient resource use for human benefit. Yung deep ecology naman, no, challenges our fundamental values and relationship with nature. Then medyo malapit sa atin, no? Sa atin, especially those sa atin ngayon, no, living or staying or involved with yung BARM, yung what we call yung political ecology and environmental justice. No, because this is something na close to our hearts. No, this theory expose yung power dynamics and inequities that underlie environmental conflicts to demanding a focus on fairness. Then we have also yung as a summation, yung ecological modernization that offers an optimistic path for reform within our economic systems. No, medyo pwede nating ibenta yung sa mga negosyante or big business, no, as long as they are compliant with our regulations. Then we also discuss yung resilience thinking that provides concepts to navigate uncertainty and complexity. So if you become a planner, no, you get that license, no, you become a skilled planner, parang ka rin kung sa bahay pa, no, parang you become a skilled carpenter. Where you don't use a single tool. Marami kang tools na gagamitin. Gamit ka ba na lagari, no? Ano to? Yung mga workers ngayon, multi-skilled na, no? Hindi lang sa carpentry, they also do painting, welder, no? Welding, masonry. So para kami kung environmental planner ka, ang analogy parang ganon, no? Multi-skilled ka, no, na tao, you use particular tools to approach a particular problem. No, as environmental planners, you must know which theoretical tool to apply to different aspects of a problem. No, understanding the strengths and limitations of each. Okay, so ito yung iklaro natin na wala namang dominant na theory, depending kung saan ka comfortable. No, like sa akin, in my case, before I become an environmental planner, I'm into the practice of law. So medyo I'm comfortable with yung mga environmental justice. No, because ang kinakain naming lawyer, mga cases, no, and mga cases involving mga ano to, yung uneven power dynamics, no? Citizens suing government, di ba? Or mga children suing government for inaction sa involving environmental issues. So it's something na medyo malapit sa akin, no? Including political ecology. But that will not prevent me from also using other tools, no, in solving or yung mga issues or problems presented to us, no, as environmental planners. And after theory, no, we go quickly ngayon sa practice. No, summation ng practice. How do you apply ba yung theory to practice? Nako, nandito na. No, yung malaking issue dito. Yung malaking difference sometimes, no? Because theory is not an abstract academic exercise. No? It is the invisible framework that shapes every practical decision that we make. So theory determines how we define a problem in the first place. No, parang paggawa for example ng comprehensive land use plan, no, yung vision, no, kinaklaro yung vision, ano yung roadmap na dapat gawin ng isang LGU, ano bang problema ng LGU in the first place. So for example yung air pollution, no, it can be a technical problem involving emission controls. Pero hindi lang yan, what about yung mga economic problem, no, of market failures, kasama din yan, no, tinitingnan ng mga environmental planners. Or yung justice problem. Justice problem, common naman sa atin to. Sa bansa natin, no? You see a lot of injustices everywhere. So the theory that you subscribe will sometimes dictate the answer. Nauna na tayo, no? Kahit hindi pa tayo familiar sa theory, I'm providing you the framework. Actually, sa practice naman, yung theory, depende yan sa ano to, yung answer na gusto natin. For example, yung ginagamit ngayon natin, no, mostly requirement sa mga environmental planners, no, yung environmental impact assessment. That came from yung rational comprehensive na model, no, sa US na discuss ko na rin sa inyo. Systematic technical process, may proseso siya. Now, what about yung political ecology at saka environmental justice ng mga theories, no? They give us the mandate and the methods of deep community engagement and cumulative impact mapping. So what about resilience theory? No, it pushes us to use adaptive management and scenario planning. So yung mga theoretical underpinnings, yung ma-learn natin, no, in this session or sa other classes nyo, they provide the compass to guide us through the complex and often contentious landscape of environmental decision making. So dito sa practice natin, no, central yung environmental impact assessment. Not only this concept is important, no, but this is a legal requirement. So yung EIA, no, is the most widely used and legally entrenched tool in the environmental planners toolkit. As we discussed earlier, may systematic process to siya. Mandated by laws doon sa US, meron din dito sa atin. Sa US, nauna sila doon, 1970, naging template to most countries, including the Philippines. So this EIA, no, requires, for example, developers or mga government agencies to identify, predict, and evaluate the likely significant environmental effects of a proposed project. No? For example, highway, mine, or industrial plant before approval is given. Unfortunately, class, no, itong EIA, ang major violator dito sa bansa natin, yung gobyerno natin mismo. The sad part, you have government na mga projects na walang mga EIA. Na bakit wala? Kasi ayaw nilang ipadaan sa mga planners. Why? Because yung planners, we have the professional responsibility to do, no, the necessary planning, all the requirements. Bakit ayaw nila ng planners? Kasi hindi sila mga kwarta, in short. 'Di ba? So you have mga bridges na walang sufficient na mga studies. No, kasi tayo once you certify yung mga studies na to using your license na gusto niyo makuha ngayon, you can be disciplined later kung nagmali ka sa mga recommendations. So important yung lisensya natin yan, no? For you to sign yung mga environmental impact assessment, mga CLUP, no, other na mga site development plans, because nakataya din yung lisensya nyo dyan. Now, for example, kung hindi masyado kayo nakikinig sa klase, hindi nyo nakuha yung importance o relevance ng mga theories na dapat gamitin nyo, then that will have an impact also on your professional practice. Okay? So dapat kasi before yung approval, tumadaan ng ganito, environmental impact assessment. Lalo na sa gobyerno natin, no? They implement projects bypassing even this requirement. No? So that's a sad part. Now, ako naman, being an environmental planner, sometimes helpless kayo, wala kang magawa eh. Because the first major violator is our government. But anyway, ito yung discussion natin. This could have been prevented. A lot of mga mga environmental mga problems ma-minimize, ma-mitigate if government only complied with yung laws na pinasa nila, no? So ang importante dito sa EIA kasi, no, because it forces a rigorous analysis and requires the proposal of measures to avoid, minimize, or mitigate identified harms. So yung resulting na environmental impact statement, no, target na yan, serves as a critical document for informing public stakeholders and elected decision makers, yung mga politicians natin, ensuring that environmental costs are factored into the calculus of development, bringing the hidden consequences of projects into the light of public scrutiny. No? Ang ganda pakinggan, pero ang unang tumira sa atin yung kongreso natin mismo. Nandoon pa lang lahat ng lahat ng issues, walang mga kanyan, no? Halos karamihan ng mga major projects hindi dumaan ng environmental impact assessment yan or insufficient, no? Nag-hire sila ng mga professionals, environmental planners, or even consultants, kakutsaba ng DPWH. So ano nangyayari, no? So widespread corruption. Practically nauwi pa nga sa mga hundreds of ghost projects. So we're discussing itong event, no, sa politika natin just to stress yung importance ng compliance ng environmental impact assessment. So there's also yung what's that?
Yes, sir. About dito sa environmental impact assessment, sir.
Yeah, you can ask your question later siguro, no?
Yes.
Let me finish na my presentation.
Sorry.
Later mag-ask ng question. I know you can contentious na issue to, no? Kaya may mag-react talaga. But sa akin, from my standpoint as environmental planner, the biggest violator is our government. This is an academic discussion anyway, no? But sa akin, ang dapat i-improve natin yung governance, no? Because yung nasa gobyerno mismo yung may problema, no? Rather than they control the resources, they control the hiring of consultants, they control the implementation. So we have yung next na natin dito, yung tinatawag nating after yung environmental impact assessment, yung strategic environmental assessment ginagamit sa US. Dito less masyado na mainstream to, no? So but ang sinasabi lang dito, while EIA is applied at the project level, yung strategic environmental assessment naman, no, or C operates at a higher, more strategic level. It applies the principles of EIA to policies, plans, and programs. For example, yung C, na yung tawag natin, short for Strategic Environmental Assessment, would be used to assess a national energy strategy. Medyo strategic siya, or a regional transportation plan, or a city's comprehensive zoning bylaw. Yung advantage lang dito na, for example, yung mga policy makers natin will be using this, yung timing, no, ma-evaluate natin yung environmental implications at an early stage, at an early conceptual stage. No? So this allows for consideration of broader alternatives, no, and helps to avoid lacking in environmentally damaging pathways from the outset. So yun, by employing this yung strategic environmental assessment, yung mga scenarios, no? Yung mga tinatawag nilang death by 1,000 cuts scenario, no? Where individual small projects, each with mitigated, for instance, EIA, cumulatively lead to significant regional environmental degradation. No? So, ano yan? Ano example? For example, isang munisipyo, no? Compliant siya with EIA, no? Tapos yung project tinuloy, pero anong impact naman doon sa next na munisipyo, no? In terms of yung flow ng tubig. So, na-solve mo nga sa isang munisipyo, pagdating sa kabilang munisipyo, na-aggravate mo yung situation. Mga ganong example, no? Then we have yung sa practice na ginagamit natin sa environmental planning. I'm sure many of you are familiar, yung Geographic Information System or GIS. So this tool have significantly revolutionized yung environmental planning since their widespread adoption in the 1990s. So this is essential, no, for technology, for mapping, analyzing, and visualizing spatial data. So a planner can overlay dozens of different mga layers, no, such as yung, for example, yung soil types, floodplains, habitat corridors, no, pwede mo ipatong-patong dyan, land ownership, population density, and pollution sources on a single digital map. Diba, ang ganda, no, sa atin sa planning. Ang ganda na magamit yan, no? So this allows us to identify sensitive areas, model scenarios like the path of a potential oil spill or yung impact ng sea level rise, no, na coastal community, and make evidence-based decisions about where development should or should not go. So maganda dito sa GIS, no, it transforms abstract data into a powerful visual story, making complex spatial relationship clear to planners, policymakers, and the public alike. So it is, no, in my opinion, without exaggeration, no, the most powerful and indispensable na software tool. No? So dapat familiar tayo dito, or we can engage other person, no, to assist us, for example, in formulating, no, yung or securing information out of this mga geographic information system. But marami na ring sources na pwedeng gamitin, no? For example, sa mga hazard maps natin, that it's available online, na kung LGU ka, you can get also those information na saan yung mga earthquake fault zones, no, yung mga flood prone areas, no, yung areas na susceptible sa rise ng sea level. Marami na yan, no? I think in Project NOAA, other you can get those information. Of course, kailangan tong validation also. Then one to sa practice na ginagamit din natin yung what we call yung carrying capacity na analysis. So classic to, no? This is classic but very important na analytical tool that determines the maximum level of development or human use that an ecosystem can sustain without significant degradation. So narinig nyo palagi yan sa mga professional planners yung what is the carrying capacity, no, ng ng particular locality, or if we implement this project, na reach ba natin yung threshold, or when ma-reach natin yung threshold. So fundamental question tinatanong diyan, no, how much is too much? How much is too much? So yung analysis natin dito examines the available natural resources like water supply. No, importante yung water supply. Sabi nga ng mga senior na mga planners dito sa atin, wini-waste natin yung mga tubig. No? Sayang yung mga tubig, no, because hindi natin nakaka-capture. But ironically, meron na tayo sa bansa natin, we have comprehensive na master plan, no, na mga water plan. Ang problem, hindi siya na-implement. So yung dito sa carrying capacity analysis, na this examines, for example, yung sa water supply, no, pagkatapos yung ability ng ecosystem natin to absorb yung for example yung mga waste, no, at saka impacts, no, like example yung mga sewage, or another example dito yung carrying capacity, yung recreational na foot traffic. So, sa negosyo naman dito, ginagamit yan ng mga, for example, mga established na similar yung application sa concept na to, yung whether or not the particular site can be the maximum site for their particular business. So meron silang analysis also yung carrying capacity in terms of number of mga pedestrian. So this is critically important for managing sensitive and bounded environments. For example, yung mga national parks, coastal zones, and mga small islands. So for instance, this can be used to set a limit on the number of daily visitors. Look at Boracay, may limit na sila. No? Naglagay sila ng limit. One way for them to regulate is sumisingil na sila. No, ng parang environmental fee. Hindi lang yung sa Boracay, may mga areas in the country na one way to limit yung visitors is they increase yung fee na pagpasok doon. So famous country ata diyan na I think Bhutan or Nepal, they have very high na mga they're charging foreigners very high na tourism fee as one way to limit yung number of visitors. So this analysis provides a scientific basis for saying no or enough, establishing a clear ecological limits to growth. Then another one, sa practice tayo yung zoning for environmental goals. So yung zoning naman, one of the most traditional na tools in urban planning. So this is used to achieve environmental objectives. So you separate yung particular na mga uses, residential from industrial uses. Meron din mga special protective na mga districts for critical environmental areas. Like dito sa atin sa Mindanao, mga wetlands natin. Steep na mga slopes or prime agricultural land. So yun, ang purpose natin dito is to regulate yung utilization ng limited or finite na land resources, for instance. So zoning yung ginagamit. So yung mga this is parang clear na legal mechanisms, because yung mga high level na environmental goals natin, they are translated into enforceable on the ground regulations that directly shape the pattern of development. So as a general rule, dapat compliant kung saan ano yung negosyo mo, commercial ba yan, industrial or agro-industrial or tourism, dapat doon mo set sa area na classified or zonified by the LGU. Of course, may mga exception dyan, but as general rule, ganun yung takbo. Then another one, sa practice, marami actually ito, but tingin ko lang yung mga important. So another one na mainstream now is yung green infrastructure, at saka yung low impact development. So gumagamit to ng instead of relying yung tinatawag nating mga gray infrastructure, like mga pipes, concrete, at saka treatment plants, ang ginagamit yung natural or engineered systems to mimic yung natural processes. So the goal here is to manage environmental challenges, particular, for example, stormwater at its source. Yun nga, sa Cebu, unfortunately, yung impact ng deforestation. Matindi yung impact, pagkatapos yung urbanization. So instead na yung inaabsorb ng lupa, because the water lines or water works naka-concrete na, so ibig sabihin mabilis yung bagsak ng tubig sa baba. So dito sa green infrastructure, mas gusto nilang yung mga, for example, yung lupa natin, they can absorb rainwater, yung mga pavements natin permeable, ganun yung ginagamit. Instead yung mga pavements na concrete, dapat may mga butas-butas siya na yung tubig makapag-absorb so that they can infiltrate the ground. Then yung preservation of natural wetlands natin. I think we have dyan sa may Bukidnon area, no? Bukidnon ba or Agusan, no? One of the biggest ata yan, no? In the entire country. So instead of expanding yung tinatawag nating gray infrastructure, no? Magtayo ka ng mga kalsada, mga drainage, ang approach is yung mga natural or yung mga engineered systems na parang ginagaya yung nature. So anong benefit, no? So yung reduction of yung flooding, yung improvement ng water quality, no? Pagkatapos yung mitigation ng urban heat. Di ba napapansin natin mga areas, mga cities, especially for example here sa Jensan, magtaka ka, one of the cities na sobrang matindi yung init, no? So ang simple lang na explanation, halos lahat ng kahoy na pinuputol. No? So instead of protecting yung mga tree cover natin, so sa central area ng city may magtayo ng mga roads, no, may infrastructure. First casualty will be yung trees. In other countries naman iba yung approach nila, no? Yung nag-a-adjust yung mga tao, tayo. Yung trees will stay. No? Kung gusto mo namang development sa area, they transfer yung mga trees. Sabi nila magastos daw yan, no? But yung mga other countries, they've been doing that. Instead of cutting trees, they preserve yung trees. So dito tayo sa green infrastructure. Then another sa practice na ginagamit yung what we call site level environmental planning. Now this is where so-called the rubber meets the road. No, where broad policies and plans are translated into action on individual parcels of land. At the site level, environmental planning involves implementing, for instance, low impact development, yung LEED, techniques in a specific property, such as installing a permeable parking lot. Diba? Instead yung parking lot na concrete, no? Ang modern trend ngayon is permeable na parking lot. So this also includes yung mga brownfield redevelopment, no? Complex process of cleaning up and repurposing abandoned contaminated industrial sites, which revitalize urban areas while preventing greenfield sprawl. We tackled also yung LEED, no? Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which provides framework, no, for creating healthy, highly efficient, and cost-saving green buildings. So dito sa bansa natin, no, there are growing number of buildings which are compliant with the Green Building Code. At konti pa lang, no, parang footprint ata. They're saying despite the campaign of government for using green infrastructure, yung footprint pa lang is parang less than 1 to 2% pa lang of the total area. Okay, then we have also yung ito, no, sa practice na to, no, karamihan na to sa those in LGUs natin, yung local municipal planning. Ito yung sa practice, especially here in the Philippines, the most active, no, an impactful scale for environmental planning. Parang last night I met with one mayor dyan sa North Cotabato, no, on a consultation sa CLUP nila dyan sa area. So doon makita yung matindi na dynamics, no, because even if it is just town, no, but yung planning, yung level of planning is still very far, no, from compared with the other areas. So nandito dapat yung mga communities natin, no, mag-develop ng mga comprehensive plan. Tapos yung long-term vision of guiding yung how the locality will be developed. Tapos yung in tandem with yung mga local comprehensive plan natin, andyan din yung mga climate action plans, no, that should be created, detailing, for instance, how a town or a city will reduce its greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate impacts. So Sa atin dito, no, we practice yung co-management principle. No, ano 'yan, no? Ano 'yan, ang ibig sabihin niyan, parang maganda pakinggan but sa implementation nagki-create ng mga dynamics, no? Ang sabi lang diyan, with respect to our environment, yung LGU natin saka yung national natin, they manage them jointly. Jointly. So how to operationalize that yun nagki-create ng problem. Have you heard about yung PAMBI, no? That's another dynamics yan because it's a body that's supposed to protect, no, in certain areas, no, mga protected areas in the country, but yung composition niya may mga politicians, no, may mga mayors, governors, and you have also yung mga civil society organizations. So nandun yung mga dynamics. So yung mga natin, yung mga town planning natin, city planning, ito yung pinakamalapit, no, sa mga tao. So yung action nila on for instance zoning, transportation at saka public utilities, ito yung directly affect, no, yung mga tao natin, yung quality life of the mga citizens particular area. So for instance dito sa Jensan, no, ang example natin kasi I'm based in Jensan, yung decision ng LGU to maintain yung mga even colorum tricycle. No, because ang argument ng LGU is mahirap mawalan ng trabaho. Pero ang next na issue doon is what about yung yung riding public. No, sometimes na they're being shortchanged, no, they're being subject of yung overcharging, tapos despite na yung other na mga tricycles merong franchise, but the LGU is still insisting na dapat patakbuhin yan because of humanitarian reasons. So, yun yung mga ganong dynamics, no? Na paano mo i-resolve yan because may mga political implications also. Then you have also regional planning. Na hindi lang in particular city or munisipyo, dan na sa regional mga bodies natin. No? We have sa atin yung mga regional development councils. So, pagdating sa yung regional, no, sometimes yung mga environmental issues natin transcend yung mga towns, no, or mga boundaries ng mga cities. So dapat may strong yung regional component. Dahil ang impact ng decision will have also whatever decision ng isang locality may have also direct impact doon sa next na locality. So dapat ang sinasabi lang dito sa mga planners, dapat may collaboration, no, across multiple jurisdiction. So common yun sa atin, no, yung medyo popular yung Metro Manila Development Authority, no, medyo it provides collaboration, coordination on different LGUs within the National Capital Region. No, sa probinsya naman yung mga regional development councils natin. So sa regional planning, andyan yung mga ano yung mga growth areas natin, no? So what about yung mga water resources natin na nagko-cross ng mga boundaries, no? So importante din 'yan. So sa ganung level, no, you have yung coordinating councils or bodies. No, for example, mining. No, sa South Cotabato, for example, mining, one of the biggest na parang site ng mining sa Tampakan. Hindi naman pwedeng ang mag-decide lang diyan is yung Tampakan without considering yung mga nearby na mga towns or provinces. No, even as far as Jensan, no, sabi nila yung water sa South Cotabato or going Pulumulok daw affected because of yung yung open pit mining sa Tampakan. So mga ganung mga level, no, na implications on nearby na mga areas. And of course, hindi mawala talaga, you go regional, yung national at saka yung global scale, no? Quickly lang. Because yung government, they set yung broad policy direction. And create, of course, yung mga legal framework, no? Yung Congress natin, pinapasa. No? On a regional level, sa atin dito, no? Diyan sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, no? There's regional assembly, yung lawmaking body natin diyan. Yung dynamics magkaiba, no? Kasi sa national, we're being run presidential. Pagdating sa regional level, it's parliamentary. No? Interesting na dynamics. So, what will be yung mga policy direction, yung dynamics na yan? What about yung areas, crossing, for example, BARM, no? Crossing yung mga nearby na mga provinces in terms of yung mga forests, waters. So, important din talaga na makapasok ka sa profession kasi yun yung dynamics ngayon, no? You have national agencies, tapos yung sharing ng mga resources. Contentious na issue yan. Then yung global, no? We go, because very limited time to, yung global scale. Yung mga, yung mga international agreement, no? Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement on climate change. Sabi ng ibang bansa, bakit naman nagbibigay ng quota yan, no, sa mga mahihirap? Yung mga mayayaman, sila yung first na violator, yung big countries, US, China, no? So level ba yan na ang policy is set, percentage of reduction? Parang ganon, no, sa mga dynamics ng ng mga policies na may impact also sa national level. And this one, medyo mainstream na talaga to, very important. In what we call climate change mitigation planning. So this focuses on reducing the concentration of greenhouse gases lang, no, in short. So sa atin, local planners, this means taking concrete action to shrink the community's carbon footprint. Ano yan? Creating policies, programs to dramatically improve energy efficiency. No, mag-electric na ba tayo? Mga tricycle mag-electric na ba? So at what cost? Sa national level, National Capital Region, naging issue yan. No? Maraming rally, nagreklamo. Hindi nila ma-afford. No? But that's part of yung mitigation planning. So kasama sa mitigation planning kasi yung adoption of renewable energy like solar, wind, saka yung mga incentives. Kasama na rin yung transportation planning. No, expanding and electrifying public transit. No, sa other countries, yung trend nila doon, maglakad na lang, magbisikleta. Sa atin dito, we're too car-centric. Dahil sa other areas, very developed na yung public transport nila. So you cannot insist dito sa atin kasi wala naman tayong ganun highly efficient na public transport, no? Especially sa areas na within at saka surrounding the National Capital Region. So, anong ultimate goal of mitigation planning? To steer the community towards a low-carbon future, fundamentally decoupling economic prosperity from fossil fuel consumption. Yung next na dyan, no? Just quickly lang, yung adaptation planning naman. So, you have mitigation, adaptation planning. So, while mitigation tackles yung cause of climate change, yung adaptation naman deals with its unavoidable impacts. No, adaptation planning is about preparing for the new normal of extreme heat, intense rainfall, sea level rise, at saka more frequent droughts. So, nagsimula yan. Saan nagsimula? Yung tinatawag nating mga vulnerability assessment. To identify which communities, infrastructures, and ecosystems are most at risk. Palagi sa atin to. No? Nag-a-adapt na lang tayo. No? A part of the adaptation sa climate change kasi yung mitigation, sometimes not sufficient, adaptation. So anong focus natin dito? The focus is to build resilience, no, ensuring that our communities can withstand, respond to, and recover from climate-related shocks and stresses without catastrophic loss. Sana, no? But look at Cebu, daming casualties pa rin, no? Kaya sabihin mong major urban center natin. Then itong next natin, ito yung paborito ko, environmental justice in practice. No? Translating environmental justice from theory into practice requires deliberate and often corrective actions. So mahirap to, no? You want to practice this. Some of you may be interested to pursue, no? Law school. But dito sa environmental justice, usually gumagamit kami ng GIS to create cumulative impact maps. Yung mga data, ma-generate mo dyan, mga socio-economic indicators to identify overburdened communities. So the process must ensure meaningful public participation, which goes beyond standard public hearings to include community-led workshops and culturally appropriate outreach. So yan, no? So yung environmental justice, may mga kaso na ring na file, no? We have also yung the famous writ of kalikasan, no, as a tool for mga environmental na mga activists. So after yung environmental justice, no, sa practice natin, another very important na trend yung biodiversity at saka habitat planning. So tayo as planners, we have a critical role to play in conserving yung ecosystems natin. Sa nagsisimula yan, this begins with yung mga mapping of critical habitats, no, wildlife corridors, at saka yung connectivity pathways to ensure animals can move between fragmented landscape. Ang sad part ngayon kasi sometimes tayo, no, human beings, yung sabi nga nila, the most intelligent animal in this planet, feeling natin we're the priority. No? Other forms of yung living things, they're just secondary. But yung other school of thought, dapat we should live harmoniously with nature. So magandang pakinggan, but sa practice niyan mahirap i-implement. So yung challenges sa actual, no, sa practice by way of summation. So one of the most persistent, no, and frustrating challenge actually sa practice natin, yung tinatawag nating implementation gap, no, usual, no, the chasm between a beautifully crafted plan, galing ng planner, na ginawang plano, and its realization on the ground. Alam naman natin yan, no, sa government. Gandang plano, mahina yung implementation. Magandang batas, walang sumusunod sa batas natin. No, a plan can be technically perfect, but it can fall due because of lack of political will or leadership. No, I don't want to elaborate na dito, no, kasi I'm sure alam niyo na 'yan. No, yung mga powerful vested interests from corporations to community groups, no, political dynasties. Yung mga plans natin can be delayed for years by legal challenges. So, what we're saying, tayo as planner, we need to overcome this, yung mga gaps na to. So, as planners, hindi lang tayo technicians. No, nag-aaral ng mga theory na yan. We must also be advocates, no, politicians in some form, at saka very good communicators. At itong palagi, no, challenge between yung data at saka equity. Now, because we live in an age of artificial intelligence, no, too much data, abundant data, yet the challenges of using it wisely are immense. Diba? Sobrang data natin. Difficulty in translating yung mga data sets into actionable wisdom and effective policy. Tapos yung pursuit of equity, no, presents profound technical at saka political challenges. So tayo as mga planners, we are faced with yung mga technically complex na mga models. No? Pagkatapos, politically, it is even harder as it requires confronting a legacy of historic injustices and often involving redistributing resources at saka opportunities, which can provoke significant opposition. Diba? Mga ganyan, nangyayari yan eh. No? So tayo as planners must constantly balance addressing urgent, immediate community needs with long-term strategic work of systemic change, all while communicating across technical at saka social divides. So future divides, no? Future na directions natin, no? First is integration. Yung future ng profession natin, environmental planning, lies in deeper integration. We can no longer afford to have climate planning, diversity planning, at saka yung equity planning as separate or different na mga efforts. The future requires us to tightly link climate at saka yung biodiversity agendas. Now, we must forge stronger connections between public health departments at saka planning departments. Pagpasok ng AI, another din to na issue. Saka yung big data. No? This provides incredible potential for modeling complex systems. But we must use this technology wisely. The next, another future direction, sa summation natin, yung innovation. Looking ahead, we see the rise of new at saka innovative na mga approaches. Now with AI, marami na tayong pwedeng gawin dyan. For instance, yung mga circular na economy model natin which aims to eliminate waste, smart city technologies. Sabi nga nila, if you want to go forward or yung advanced na several years from now, you go to China. Lahat doon, pagpasok mo lang doon, captured na yung data mo, your thumb mark, your mukha mo. Even if you're a foreigner, you're availing of yung mga amenities nila, they can easily track you. But of course, even may mga innovation na yan, important for us as planners to use also yung nature-based solutions. They are essential and cost-effective. Lalo na sa atin, sa Philippines na growing middle power. In Pilipinas, they don't want to be called third world. Ang parang correct na terminology is middle power, rising middle power. So ano yung role natin in winding up? So yung role natin as environmental planner is undergoing very profound transformation. So we are not just technical experts na nakaupo dyan sa backroom, gawa-gawa ng mga mapa, mga reports. So, ang modern na term ngayon sa mga planners, we are facilitators and mediators. Now we bring yung diverse and often conflicting stakeholders to the table to find common ground. So as you join this profession, you must be visionaries, communicators, able to articulate a compelling at saka sustainable future for our communities. So anong requirement dito? Aside from getting that license, this requires yung broader na skill set. Solid understanding ng ecological science, policy, laws, coupled with a deep commitment to justice at saka fair play. Now we must be negotiators. Now we must be listeners, collaborators, working across disciplines and with community groups to create solutions. So in conclusion, dito sa natin sa practice, summation ng practice natin, yung history, theory at saka practice of environmental planning are unified by a single enduring mandate. Ano yung mandate na to? To reconcile human development with the immutable limits of our planetary ecosystem. Anong history natin? It shows a growing awareness of our impact and deepening understanding of our interconnections. So yung mga theories natin, they provide lenses. Nauna na to ngayon, summarize na natin. Yung theories natin, they provide lenses. At saka mga conceptual tools to diagnose problems at saka provide solutions. But yung practice, yung solution, yung ultimate goal natin as planners, ano bang ultimate goal natin? Yung creation of communities that are not only sustainable at saka resilient, but also ito, sa mga visionaries natin dito, just at saka equitable. In an era of climate crisis that we are facing right now, saka yung loss ng biodiversity, yung work natin as environmental planners is not merely important. Ako titingin, parang we're in a stage na kailangan talaga more than before. More than ever before, this profession is taking center stage na. Because sabi nga nila, the best argument of the need to engage environmental planning is yung casualty, unfortunately at saka distraction. Diba? Parang ganun. So that ends yung natin, no? Yung discussion natin, yung summation natin. This is just summation, tingin ko ng ng profession natin. History, theory, at saka practice, no?